deck creaks beneath 200 sleeping soldiers as your Roman warship cuts through midnight waters. But tonight, one choice will change everything for these sleeping soldiers. In the next 2 hours, you'll discover not just how Romans slept on the open sea, but which of these men will face a terrible choice that could doom them all. You know what I absolutely love? Knowing where you all are as we share these stories together. Are you curled up in bed, on your couch with a cup of tea? Maybe traveling somewhere far from home? Drop a comment and tell me. It honestly makes my day reading about your little corners of the world. There's something so special about all of us scattered across the globe, but here together in this peaceful moment. If you're new here, welcome to our Sleepy History family. And if these stories have become part of your bedtime routine, hitting subscribe means the world to me. It helps other people find this cozy corner of the internet too. Now, let me take you back to the height of the Roman Empire. We're sliding back almost 2,000 years, to the age when wooden ships carried Rome's power across endless water. No engines, no GPS, just star-bright skies, steady oars, and sails billowed by Mediterranean wind. But we won't chase battles or stormy drama. Instead, we'll share the hush between watches and discover how 200 soldiers found real comfort on a restless sea. Don't worry about catching every detail or staying alert through the entire story. This journey is designed to carry you softly towards sleep. If your mind wanders, that's perfect. If you drift off halfway through, even better. If you find yourself following along until the very end, that's wonderful too. The Roman stars will keep watch over your dreams either way. So take a deep breath now. Let your shoulders drop. Allow your body to sink a little deeper into comfort. We're heading back to the ancient Mediterranean, to a warship where Roman sailors are settling in for the night. The evening is calm, the sea is gentle, and for now, just for now, all is peaceful aboard this vessel of the eternal empire. The smell of wet wood and salt spray fills your nose as sea mist drifts across the deck. Your hand grips rough rope, still warm from the day's sun, while canvas sails flutter overhead like giant wings. The gentle splash of waves against the ship's hull creates a rhythm that seems to match your heartbeat. Tonight, you'll discover how Roman sailors found sleep on the rolling seas. You'll learn about the surprising comforts they created in the smallest spaces, and you'll understand why, even in the middle of military campaigns, these ancient seafarers developed some of the most peaceful bedtime routines in history. You find yourself standing on the deck of a Roman liburnian, a sleek warship designed for both speed and comfort. It's the year 78 AD, and you're part of a fleet heading toward the mysterious shores of Britain. The sun has just disappeared behind the horizon, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. This isn't the cramped, miserable ship you might imagine. The Romans were master engineers, and they built their warships like floating cities. Your vessel stretches nearly 120 feet from bow to stern, about the length of a modern basketball court, but it's the width that surprises you most. At 18 feet across, there's actually room to move, to breathe, to find your own small corner of peace. The deck beneath your feet is made of sturdy oak, worn smooth by countless voyages. Every plank fits perfectly against the next, sealed with a mixture of pine resin and wax that gives the wood a honey-like smell. Roman shipbuilders took pride in their work. They knew that a well-made ship meant the difference between life and death, between sleeping peacefully and fighting for survival against angry seas. Around you, 200 men begin their evening routines. But these aren't the rough, unwashed sailors from adventure stories. Roman military ships maintain strict standards of cleanliness and order. Each man has his assigned space, his specific duties, and his own small collection of personal items that make life at sea bearable. Marcus, a veteran sailor from the port city of Ravenna, shows you around. He's been sailing Roman waters for 15 years, and he knows every trick for staying comfortable during long voyages. His weathered hands point out details you never would have noticed. The way the ship's rails are carved with small grooves to give better grip in rough weather. How the deck slopes just slightly toward drain holes that keep rain from pooling. The secret Marcus tells you in his calm, gravelly voice, is understanding that the ship wants to take care of you. Work with her rhythms, not against them. As darkness settles over the water, you begin to understand what he means. The ship doesn't fight the waves, it dances with them. Each gentle roll rocks you like a cradle. The creaking of the wooden hull becomes a lullaby, a song the ship sings to herself as she cuts through the dark waters. Lanterns flicker to life across the deck, casting warm golden circles of light, but they're placed carefully, positioned so they won't disturb the men trying to sleep, while still providing enough illumination for the night watch to do their work safely. You notice something else surprising. The ship is remarkably quiet for having 200 people aboard. Romans valued discipline, but they also understood that rest was essential for fighting men. Conversations happen in low voices. Footsteps are deliberate and soft. Even the clanking of equipment seems muted, wrapped in cloth or leather to avoid unnecessary noise. The evening meal is finishing up. Simple but nourishing food. Bread baked that morning, olive oil, cheese, aged to travel well, and wine mixed with water in the Roman style. Nothing fancy, but prepared with care by men who understand that a good meal helps everyone sleep better. As you watch the crew settling in for the night, you realize this isn't just a warship. It's a floating home for 200 men who've learned to find comfort in the most unlikely place. But how exactly do they manage to get a good night's sleep while surrounded by strangers, rocking on an endless sea, hundreds of miles from the nearest land? Meet Lucius Antonius, a 23-year-old soldier from a small farm outside Rome. This is his first sea voyage, and like you, he's wondering how anyone manages to sleep on a ship that never stops moving. His eyes are wide as he looks around at the other soldiers, all of whom seem perfectly comfortable with their floating bedroom. Lucius has spent the last week fighting seasickness and homesickness in equal measure. The rolling motion that veteran sailors find soothing makes his stomach lurch. The endless horizon makes him long for the familiar hills of his family's vineyard, and the constant presence of so many other men makes this quiet young farmer feel overwhelmed and lonely at the same time. But tonight, something is different. Maybe it's the gentle way the ship rides the swells, maybe it's the warm food settling in his stomach, or maybe it's the patient kindness of his bunkmate, an older soldier named Gaius, who's been quietly teaching Lucius the secrets of shipboard life. First thing, Gaius explains, as they prepare their sleeping area, is to stop fighting the ship. She's not trying to make you uncomfortable. She's trying to carry you safely to wherever you're going. Start thinking of her motion as a friend rocking you to sleep, not an enemy trying to shake you awake. Gaius shows Lucius how to arrange their shared sleeping space. Roman warships didn't have individual cabins for regular soldiers, but they weren't just empty decks either. Clever Roman engineers had designed a system of canvas partitions and wooden frames that could transform the ship's interior into dozens of semi-private sleeping areas. Each space accommodated 4 to 6 men and measured about 8 feet by 6 feet, roughly the size of a small modern bedroom. Canvas walls provided privacy and helped block drafts, while overhead, more canvas could be stretched to create a ceiling that kept out rain and spray. The sleeping arrangements themselves were surprisingly comfortable. Each soldier carried a wool-stuffed mattress that could be rolled up during the day and spread out at night. These weren't thin pads. Roman military mattresses were thick enough to cushion the hardest wooden deck, and they were treated with lavender oil to help with sleep and keep away insects. Gaius demonstrates how to position the mattress to work with the ship's motion rather than against it. Head toward the bow, he explains, feet toward the stern. That way, when the ship rocks, you're rolling gently from side to side instead of sliding up and down. Personal items were stored in wooden chests that doubled as seats during the day. These weren't crude boxes. Roman soldiers' storage chests were well-made pieces of furniture, often decorated with carved designs or painted scenes from home. Inside, each man kept his extra clothing, personal tools, writing materials, and small treasures that connected him to his life on land. Lucius opens his own chest, revealing the few precious items he's brought from home. A small clay lamp shaped like a dolphin, a gift from his sister, a wooden stylus and wax tablets for writing letters he hopes to send from the next port, a small bag of seeds from his family's vineyard, not to plant, but just to smell when he's feeling homesick. But the most important item in his chest is something Gaius recommended. A small pouch of herbs his mother gathered from their farm. Lavender for sleep, mint for seasickness, and rosemary for remembrance. Mixed together, they create a scent that turns any strange place into something that feels a little more like home. As the two men settle into their shared space, Lucius begins to understand that sleeping on a Roman warship isn't about ignoring the ship's motion. It's about joining it. The veteran soldiers have learned to let their bodies move with the waves instead of tensing against them. They've discovered that the ship's creaking and swaying can become as comforting as any lullaby. The canvas walls flutter slightly in the night breeze, creating gentle shadows that dance across the wooden ceiling. Outside their small space, the sounds of 200 men settling down for sleep blend into a surprisingly soothing symphony. Low conversations, the soft scrape of wooden chests being repositioned, the whisper of canvas being adjusted. But just as Lucius begins to feel truly relaxed, a new sound reaches his ears from somewhere deep in the ship's hull. A rhythmic thumping, like a giant heartbeat, accompanied by the splash of water and the creak of wood under strain. What was that sound? And why did it make some of the veteran soldiers smile while others quietly checked that their weapons were within easy reach? The sound Lucius hears is the ship's bilge-pump, an ingenious Roman invention that keeps the vessel from slowly sinking during long voyages. But the reason some soldiers reached for their weapons has nothing to do with the ship taking on water. It has everything to do with who operates the pump. Down in the ship's belly, in a space so cramped, you have to crawl to move around. 20 men work in shifts to keep the bilge pump running. These aren't Roman soldiers or free sailors. They're slaves, captured in previous campaigns, and now chained to benches in the ship's darkest corner. This is the shadow side of Roman naval comfort, the invisible workforce that makes peaceful nights possible for the soldiers sleeping on deck. While Lucius arranges his lavender-scented mattress, men whose villages he might have helped destroy work through the night to keep him safe and dry. But here's what makes this story more complex than simple good and evil. Many of these enslaved workers aren't bitter enemies dreaming of revenge. They're craftsmen, farmers, and sailors who found ways to survive and even thrive within the Roman system. Some have been promised freedom after a certain number of years of service. Others have developed genuine friendships with Roman soldiers who treat them with respect. Marcus, the veteran sailor who showed you around earlier, makes a point of visiting the bilge workers each night. He brings them extra food when he can, shares news from above deck, and listens to their stories about their homelands. He's learned phrases in a dozen different languages during his 15 years at sea. They keep us alive, Marcus explains quietly to a younger soldier who questions this kindness. It seems only right that we remember they're alive too. The bilge pump itself is a marvel of Roman engineering, a series of wooden pistons and leather valves that can move hundreds of gallons of water per hour. It's powered by human muscle, but it's designed so efficiently that even the smallest worker can operate it without exhausting himself. The work shifts are carefully managed. 4 hours on, 4 hours off, around the clock. During their rest periods, the bilge workers have their own sleeping area, not as comfortable as what the soldiers enjoy, but not the horrible conditions you might imagine either. Clean straw mattresses, oil lamps for reading or writing, even a small space where they can prepare their own food according to their traditional recipes. Some of these men have become essential to the ship's operations in ways that go far beyond pumping water. Skilled metal workers repair weapons and tools. Experienced farmers advise on preserving food for long voyages. Former fishermen teach Roman sailors about reading weather signs and navigating by stars. One man, a former shipbuilder from Gaul named Brennus, has become so valuable that the ship's captain consults him on everything from sail repair to route planning. Brennus sleeps in quarters nearly as comfortable as the regular soldiers, and he's been promised Roman citizenship and a pension when his term of service ends. This doesn't make slavery right, of course, but it shows how the Romans, practical above all else, learned that treating people decently often produced better results than ruling through fear alone. A well-treated worker who saw a path to freedom was more likely to put genuine effort into keeping the ship sailing smoothly. As night deepens over the dark waters, the sound of the bilge pump becomes part of the ship's lullaby. Splash, thump, creak, splash, thump, creak. It's the heartbeat that keeps everyone aboard alive, operated by men whose own hearts beat with hopes and dreams that aren't so different from those of the soldiers sleeping above. Lucius, drifting between wake and sleep, finds himself thinking about the farm workers on his family's vineyard. Some are slaves, some are free, but all of them work together to bring in the harvest. Maybe life on this ship isn't so different from life back home. People from different places, with different stories, all working together to get through another day. The gentle rolling of the ship, combined with the rhythmic sound of the pump, begins to work its magic on the young soldier's tired mind. But just as sleep starts to take hold, he becomes aware of something else happening in the darkness around him. What Lucius notices in the growing darkness is something wonderful and unexpected. The ship is filled with quiet music, not loud entertainment, but soft personal songs that blend together like a gentle chorus of lullabies. In one corner of the sleeping area, a soldier from the mountains of northern Italy quietly hums a tune his grandmother taught him, a simple melody about shepherds watching their flocks under starlight. The sound is so soft, it barely rises above the whisper of waves against the hull, but it carries clearly in the still night air. From another section comes the gentle plucking of a small harp. A Celtic soldier, recruited from tribes in modern-day France, plays a song about rivers flowing toward the sea. The melody is sad but peaceful, like homesickness transformed into something beautiful. Even the ship's timekeepers, responsible for calling out the changing of watches, do their job musically. Instead of shouting harsh commands, they sing out the hours in long melodic calls that sound almost like prayers. Second watch, all is well. Second watch, all is well. This is one of the most surprising discoveries about Roman military life. How much music was woven into even the most practical activities. Soldiers sang while they marched, not just to keep time, but because music made hard work easier and brought men together across the barriers of language and homeland. On ships, music served an even more important purpose. It helped mask the small sounds that could prevent sleep. The creaking of ropes, the scurrying of rats, the snores of 200 men. But more than that, it created a shared atmosphere of peace that made everyone feel less alone in the darkness. Gaius, Lucius's experienced bunkmate, adds his own voice to the quiet symphony. He sings a work song he learned during his years, helping to build roads across Gaul. The words are about stones fitting together to create something strong and permanent, but the melody is gentle enough to be a bedtime song. Every ship develops its own music, Gaius explains in a whisper. Give a group of men a few weeks together, and they'll start singing the same songs, humming the same tunes. It happens without anyone planning it. The ship teaches her own crew how to sound like they belong together. As if to prove his point, the various melodies around them begin to blend and harmonize. The Celtic harp finds the same key as the Italian lullaby. The timekeeper's calls start to echo the rhythm of the work song. It's not arranged or directed. It just happens. Like magic, Lucius feels his body relaxing completely for the first time since the voyage began. The ship's rolling motion no longer fights against his need for stillness. Instead, it rocks him gently from side to side, like being held in enormous, caring hands. The sounds around him, waves, wood, pumps, and quiet music, blend into something that feels like safety. His mattress, stuffed with wool that still carries the scent of Roman hillsides, seems to grow softer beneath him. The canvas walls of his sleeping space flutter gently, making the shadows dance in ways that remind him of leaves moving in the wind back home. The herbs from his mother's garden, tucked safely in his personal chest, release their gentle fragrance into the night air. Lavender for sleep, mint for health, rosemary for remembrance. Each breath carries him deeper into relaxation. deeper into the kind of peace he never expected to find hundreds of miles from shore. But the most comforting discovery of all is how normal this is beginning to feel. The ship that seemed so strange and frightening just hours ago now feels like home. Not the same as his family's farm, but a different kind of home. A place where he belongs, where he's safe, where he can rest. As sleep begins to take hold of his tired mind, Lucius realizes that he's not just learning to survive a night on a Roman warship. He's learning something much more valuable: how human beings create comfort and connection wherever they find themselves, even in the most unlikely places. And with that thought, he drifts into the kind of deep, peaceful sleep that comes only when you finally stop fighting where you are and start accepting where you belong. 3 hours past sunset, and the ship has settled into her nighttime rhythm. Most of the soldiers sleep deeply now, their breathing synchronized with the gentle rise and fall of the waves. But the ship never truly sleeps. There are always men awake, keeping watch, tending to the small tasks that keep everyone safe through the dark hours. Up on deck, the night watch moves quietly between their stations. These aren't nervous sentries, peering anxiously into the darkness. They're experienced sailors who know that most nights at sea pass without incident. Their job is less about fighting off attacks and more about reading the subtle signs that tell them how the night is progressing. The helmsman steers by stars, following constellations that Roman navigators have mapped with careful precision. The wind watchers adjust sails with tiny, almost invisible corrections that keep the ship moving efficiently without disturbing the sleepers below. The lookouts scan the horizon, not for enemy ships, but for changes in weather, shifts in current, the distant glow that might indicate land. Down in the sleeping areas, the soft sounds of 200 men at rest create their own kind of music. Different types of breathing blend together: the deep, slow rhythms of exhausted youth, the lighter, more careful breaths of older soldiers, the occasional sigh or murmur of someone dreaming about home. Some men sleep so deeply they seem to have surrendered completely to the ship's care. Others rest more lightly, one part of their mind still aware of their surroundings, ready to wake instantly if needed. But even the light sleepers aren't tense or worried. They've learned to trust their shipmates, trust their vessel, trust the routines that have kept Roman ships safe for generations. In the small space he shares with Gaius and 4 other soldiers, Lucius discovers something remarkable about sleep. Aboard a moving ship, dreams become different somehow. Deeper, more vivid, filled with the sensation of traveling, even while resting. He dreams about flying over dark water, about swimming through forests of kelp, about conversations with dolphins that speak Latin. The ship's motion affects everyone's sleep in different ways. Some men find that the rolling helps their bodies relax completely, muscles letting go of tension they didn't even know they were carrying. Others discover that their minds become more creative, more open to strange and wonderful thoughts as they drift between waking and sleeping. Marcus, the veteran sailor, sleeps the sleep of a man completely at home in his environment. His body adjusts automatically to every change in the ship's movement. When she rolls to port, he shifts slightly to starboard. When she rises over a larger wave, he settles deeper into his mattress. He's been doing this so long it happens without conscious thought. But even Marcus maintains one part of his awareness tuned to the ship's sounds. The bilge-pump's rhythm tells him the hull is sound. The creaking of the rigging tells him the wind is steady. The gentle splash of water against the bow tells him they're making good progress. All of these sounds together create a symphony of safety that lets him rest without worry. The ship's cat. Every Roman vessel carried cats to control rats. Makes her nightly rounds through the sleeping areas. She moves like a shadow, checking on the men with an almost maternal care. Sometimes, she settles down next to a young soldier who seems restless, her warm purring adding another layer of comfort to the night sounds. In the bilge area, the workers continue their essential rotation, but even their work has taken on a drowsy, meditative quality. The pump's rhythm has slowed to match the ship's peaceful progress through calm seas. Conversations happen in whispers, when they happen at all. Several of the workers sleep deeply during their off hours, as comfortable as anyone else aboard. Brennus, the Gallic shipbuilder, lies awake for a few extra minutes, thinking about the vessel around him. He can feel, through the wooden planks beneath him, every subtle flex and adjustment the ship makes as she meets the waves. It's like listening to a conversation between the wind and the sea, with the ship serving as translator. He's proud of the work he's done, helping to maintain this vessel. Several of the repairs he's made during the voyage have become permanent improvements. The captain has promised to recommend his techniques to other ships in the fleet. For a man who began this journey as a prisoner, it's a remarkable transformation. As the night deepens, even these scattered thoughts begin to fade. The ship carries her human cargo deeper into the peaceful darkness, further from the shores they left behind, closer to whatever adventures await them. But for now, in this moment, there's only the gentle rocking, the quiet sounds, the shared warmth of men who've learned to sleep together in peace. The night is still young, and there are more discoveries to be made about the art of rest aboard a Roman warship. In the deepest part of the night, something beautiful happens aboard the Roman warship. The men who've drawn the morning watch begin to quietly prepare for dawn, but they do it with a gentleness that preserves the peace of sleep around them. The morning watch starts at what Romans called the 6th hour of night, roughly what we'd call 3 a.m. But these sailors don't jolt awake with harsh alarms or shouted commands. Instead, they wake naturally, their bodies attuned to the rhythms of the ship and sea. After weeks or months of voyages, Gaius is one of the morning watches. He opens his eyes gradually, taking a moment to feel the ship's motion and listen to her sounds. Everything tells him the night has passed peacefully. The waves are still gentle, the wind steady, the hull sound. He can wake up slowly, gratefully. He rises from his mattress without disturbing Lucius, who sleeps deeply beside him. The young soldier has finally learned to rest aboard the ship, and Gaius is pleased to see how completely he's surrendered to sleep. His breathing is slow and deep, his face relaxed. His hands, which had clutched nervously at his blanket for the first several nights, now rest peacefully at his sides. The morning watch moves through the ship like ghosts, their footsteps soft on wooden decks. They've learned to walk in rhythm with the ship's rolling motion, never fighting against it, never creating unnecessary noise. Their sandals are wrapped with cloth to muffle sound. Their equipment is secured to prevent clanking. Up on deck, the stars are beginning their slow fade toward dawn, though it will be hours yet before the sun shows itself. The wind carries scents that suggest land somewhere ahead, the green smell of forests, the earthy smell of soil, different from the clean emptiness of the open ocean. The night helmsman passes control to his replacement with a few quiet words and a gentle hand on the shoulder. No dramatic ceremony, no formal speeches, just the simple, practiced transfer of responsibility from one experienced sailor to another. The ship never varies from her course, never feels the change. In the galley area, the morning meal begins its slow preparation, not cooking yet. That would create too much smoke and smell for the sleeping hours, but the quiet work of organizing, planning, making ready. Dried fruit is sorted, water barrels are checked, grain is measured for the bread that will be baked once everyone is awake. The ship's cat makes her final rounds of the night, checking each sleeping area with the thoroughness of a mother counting her children. She seems to understand that her presence is comforting to the men. Sometimes she'll settle briefly next to someone who seems restless, her purring adding to the peaceful sounds of night. Down in the bilge, the work continues its steady rhythm, but even here the atmosphere has grown drowsy and meditative. The men speak even less than before, their movements economical and practiced. The pump itself seems to run more quietly, as if it too understands the importance of preserving sleep for the hours just before dawn. Marcus stirs briefly, his sailor's instincts telling him that morning watch has begun, but he doesn't fully wake. His body recognizes the familiar sounds and rhythms. Everything is normal, everything is safe. He can surrender again to sleep, knowing that capable hands are guiding the ship through the last dark hours before dawn. Some of the morning watches take time for personal rituals, quiet prayers to Neptune for safe passage, or to Mars for strength in the battles to come. But even these are whispered, private moments that don't disturb the sleeping peace around them. The most remarkable thing about this transition into the deepest part of the night is how seamlessly it happens. 200 men sharing a relatively small space, yet the changing of watches creates barely a ripple in the ship's peaceful atmosphere. It's like watching dancers who've rehearsed together so long that they move as one organism. As the morning watch settles into their duties, the ship continues her steady progress through dark waters. The stars wheel overhead in their ancient patterns. The waves maintain their gentle rhythm. The night air carries the promise of dawn, still hours away. But for now, in this perfect moment of deep night, everything is exactly as it should be. The ship sails herself while her human cargo rests. The watchmen keep their quiet vigil. The sea supports and carries them all toward whatever tomorrow might bring. And in his comfortable sleeping space, Lucius dreams of home while learning. In sleep, that home can be anywhere people care for each other with skill and kindness. As the night deepens toward its darkest hour, something becomes clear about life aboard this Roman warship. Safety isn't just about weapons and armor. It's about rhythms, routines, and the kind of trust that develops when people know exactly what to expect from each other. Every sound aboard the ship has meaning, and the experienced sailors read these sounds like a language. The particular creak of the main mast tells them the wind is steady from the southwest. The splash pattern of waves against the bow indicates their speed through the water. The rhythm of the bilge-pump confirms that the hull remains sound. But it's not just the ship's sounds that create this atmosphere of safety. It's the human sounds too. The pattern of breathing from 200 sleeping men tells the watch that everyone is resting peacefully. The occasional murmur of dream talk indicates normal, healthy sleep. Even the sounds of men shifting position in their beds follow recognizable patterns. When something doesn't sound right, the experienced sailors notice immediately. Tonight, nothing is wrong, but Marcus briefly lifts his head when he hears a slight change in the bilge pump's rhythm. Just a small variation, probably caused by someone adjusting their position at the pump handles. But Marcus listens for a full minute until he's satisfied that everything is normal. This kind of awareness doesn't create anxiety, it creates confidence. When you know that competent people are paying attention to every detail, you can relax completely. When you trust that small problems will be noticed and fixed before they become large problems, you can let go of worry. The night watch moves through their routines with the precision of a well-rehearsed ceremony. Every hour, the lookout climbs to his position and scans the horizon in a specific pattern. North first, then east, south, west, and back to north. The helmsman checks the stars and makes tiny corrections to their course. The wind watcher examines the sails and adjusts tension on specific ropes. But these aren't nervous, hyperactive checks. They're calm, methodical observations by men who know their craft. Each task is performed with the relaxed confidence of someone who's done the same job hundreds of times and knows exactly what normal looks like. In the sleeping areas, this rhythm of safety expresses itself differently. Men sleep more deeply when they're surrounded by others they trust. The young soldier who might lie awake worrying about danger when alone can surrender completely to rest when he's part of a group where everyone is watching out for everyone else. Lucius experiences this firsthand. In his dreams, he's aware of the protective presence around him. Gaius sleeping within arm's reach, the other soldiers in their shared space, the watch keeping vigil overhead. It creates a feeling of safety that goes beyond physical security. It's the emotional safety that comes from knowing you belong, you're valued, you're protected. The ship herself contributes to this rhythm of safety. Her steady motion, her reliable sounds, her proven ability to carry men safely across dangerous waters. She's not just a vessel, she's a partner in the enterprise of staying alive and getting home safely. Roman naval architects understood this partnership between ship and crew. They designed vessels that would be as comfortable as possible for long voyages, knowing that rested, healthy sailors were more effective fighters and better decision makers. Comfort wasn't a luxury, it was a tactical advantage. The bilge workers below deck have found their own rhythm of safety. Their work shifts are timed not just for efficiency, but for human needs. 4 hours is long enough to accomplish meaningful work, but not so long that exhaustion creates dangerous mistakes. During their rest periods, they don't just collapse from fatigue. They have time to eat properly, to talk with friends, to maintain the small personal routines that keep spirits up during long voyages. Even the ship's rats, unwelcome but inevitable passengers, follow patterns that the experienced sailors can read. When the rats are active and bold, it usually means calm weather ahead. When they hide deep in the ship's recesses, storms may be coming. Tonight, the rats move normally through their own nocturnal routines, another small sign that all is well. As the deepest part of the night approaches, this rhythm of safety becomes something you can almost feel in the air. It's the cumulative effect of hundreds of small competencies, dozens of careful routines, and the deep trust that develops when people's lives depend on each other doing their jobs well. And wrapped in this blanket of collective care, even the most anxious young soldier can find the kind of deep, restorative sleep that prepares the body and mind for whatever challenges tomorrow might bring. Something magical happens to dreams when you sleep on moving water. The gentle, constant motion of the ship seems to unlock parts of the mind that stay closed on solid ground. Tonight, across the vessel, 200 men experience the kind of dreams that sailors have talked about for thousands of years. Lucius finds himself dreaming that he's swimming through his family's vineyard, but instead of air above the grapevines, there's clear blue water. He can breathe normally, and the grapes taste like sea salt and honey. His mother is there, but she has scales that shimmer like silver coins, and when she speaks, her words create bubbles that rise toward a surface he can't see. The dream should be strange, even frightening, but instead it fills him with profound peace. In the dream, everything makes perfect sense. Of course his mother would be there to watch over him, even in the middle of the ocean. Of course the vineyard would follow him wherever he goes. Of course he can breathe underwater. Doesn't he breathe ship air every night? Air that's half sea mist and half wind? 2 sleeping spaces over, an older soldier named Quintus dreams about marching, but instead of dusty roads, he's walking on clouds that feel as solid as stone under his feet. His legion moves in perfect formation across a sky full of stars, and each star they pass sings a different note, creating music that sounds like home. In his dream, Quintus understands that this is what they're really doing, not just sailing to Britain to fight barbarians, but marching across the sky to bring Roman order to the chaos of the universe. It's a big responsibility, but not a frightening one. He's proud to be part of such important work. Marcus, the veteran sailor, dreams that he's having a conversation with the ship herself. She appears as a woman with eyes, the color of deep water and hair that moves like seaweed in current. They're discussing the best route through a field of islands that don't exist in the waking world, but make perfect sense in dream logic. Take the third passage, the shipwoman advises. It looks narrower, but the water runs deeper there. Trust me, I've been through those straits before, in other dreams, in other lifetimes. Marcus nods in his dream, understanding completely. Of course she would know. Of course she's sailed these dream waters before. He's lucky to serve aboard such a wise vessel. Even the bilge workers experience these enhanced dreams. Brennus, the Gallic shipbuilder, dreams that he's constructing a vessel made entirely of light, golden light for the hull, silver light for the sails, starlight for the rigging. The light ship carries not soldiers or cargo, but songs and stories from every land he's ever seen. In his dream, this seems like the most important work anyone could do, building ships that carry culture and beauty instead of conquest. When he wakes, hours later, he'll remember this dream and think about it for days, wondering if it's trying to tell him something about his future. The ship's motion affects not just the content of dreams, but their texture and flow. Instead of the choppy, disconnected dream sequences common on land, sea dreams tend to be smooth and continuous, like long stories being told by accomplished storytellers. Scientists wouldn't understand the mechanism for centuries, but the constant gentle movement stimulates the inner ear in ways that enhance the brain's production of certain chemicals associated with deep sleep and vivid dreaming. The rhythmic sounds of wind and wave create a kind of natural white noise that helps the mind enter states of consciousness that are difficult to achieve in static environments. But the Romans didn't need to understand the science to appreciate the effect. Experienced sailors knew that sea dreams were special, more vivid, more meaningful, more likely to provide insight or comfort. They developed traditions around sharing dreams, interpreting them, using them to strengthen the bonds between crew members. In the morning, when the men wake and begin to stir, there will be quiet conversations about the night's dreams. Not formal dream interpretation, but the gentle sharing that happens when people have experienced something remarkable together. "I dreamed about flying last night," one soldier might say. "Me too," another will respond, "but I was swimming through air instead of water." And they'll realize that their separate dreams were somehow connected, shaped by the same motion, the same environment, the same shared experience of sleeping safely together on dark waters. For now, though, the dreams continue to unfold in the privacy of each sleeping mind. 200 different visions, all influenced by the same gentle rocking, the same peaceful sounds, the same sense of being carried safely through the night by something larger and more powerful than any individual human effort. The ship sails on, carrying both sleeping bodies and dreaming souls toward whatever dawn awaits them. In the deepest part of the night, when sleep has fully claimed the ship, and even the watch moves with the quiet efficiency of sleepwalkers, something profound happens. The boundary between individual consciousness and collective experience begins to dissolve. 200 men, sleeping in close quarters, begin to breathe as one organism. This isn't just a metaphor. It's something experienced sailors have observed for generations. When a group of people sleep together regularly in a confined space, their body rhythms gradually synchronize, heart rates align, breathing patterns match. Even brain waves begin to follow similar patterns, creating a kind of group consciousness that extends into sleep. Marcus, drifting in the light sleep of an experienced watchkeeper, becomes aware of this phenomenon without fully waking. He can feel the collective rhythm of rest around him, 200 sets of lungs rising and falling, in a pattern that's like music, like prayer, like the breathing of some vast, benevolent creature. The ship herself seems to participate in this collective rhythm. Her creaking matches the tempo of the sleeping men. The splash of waves against her hull synchronizes with their heartbeats. The flutter of sails overhead keeps time with their dreams. Roman philosophers would have had words for this experience. Something about the harmony of souls, the music of the spheres, the way individual spirits can blend together without losing their essential nature. But the sleeping soldiers don't need philosophical language. They simply experience it as the deepest, most restorative rest of their lives. In his dreams, Lucius becomes aware that he's not dreaming alone. His vineyard underwater vision begins to include other swimmers, soldiers he recognizes from waking life, but transformed by the dream logic into creatures of sea and land combined. They're all swimming in the same direction, toward the same distant shore, supporting each other with the natural ease of fish in a school. Even the enslaved workers in the bilge feel this connection. Their work rhythm has synchronized not just with the pump's requirements, but with the breathing of the sleeping men above. They find themselves working more efficiently, with less effort, as if the ship's entire human cargo is cooperating at a level deeper than conscious thought. Brennus, taking his rest break between pump shifts, lies on his straw mattress and feels something he hasn't experienced since he was a child sleeping in a room with his siblings. The profound security that comes from knowing you're part of something larger than yourself, something that will keep you safe while you surrender to complete vulnerability. The night watch, moving quietly through their routines, become guardians of this collective rest. They understand, perhaps without being able to articulate it, that they're protecting something more precious than individual sleep. They're maintaining the conditions that allow human beings to experience the kind of deep restoration that only happens when physical safety combines with emotional trust. Up on deck, the helmsman steers by feel as much as by sight. The ship tells him what she needs through subtle changes in the pressure on the steering oar. The stars provide guidance, but it's the vessel's own wisdom, the accumulated experience of countless voyages, that really determines their course through the dark hours. This is the secret knowledge that experienced sailors carry, that ships develop their own intelligence over time, not consciousness in the human sense, but a kind of accumulated wisdom that comes from successfully navigating thousands of different conditions. A good ship remembers how to handle every kind of weather, every type of sea, every challenge that wind and wave can present, and in return, the ship asks only that her human partners trust her judgment, work with her natural tendencies, and maintain the kind of harmonious cooperation that makes long voyages not just survivable, but genuinely restful. As the night reaches its deepest point, with dawn still hours away, the Roman warship becomes something more than a military vessel carrying soldiers to war. She becomes a floating sanctuary, where men from dozens of different homelands, speaking various languages, following different gods, learn to sleep together in peace. It's a lesson that will serve them well when they reach whatever shores await them. But for now, in this perfect moment of collective rest, there's no tomorrow to worry about. There's only the gentle rocking, the synchronized breathing, and the deep wisdom that comes from trusting completely in the care of others. In the hour before dawn, something subtle begins to change aboard the Roman warship. Not awakening yet, that's still hours away, but a gentle shift in the quality of sleep, as if the ship herself is beginning to dream about morning. The stars overhead have wheeled through most of their nightly journey. The constellation Romans call the Great Bear has turned almost completely around the North Star, but the horizon remains dark, with no hint yet of the sun's approach. This is the deep night's final gift, one more hour of perfect rest before the gradual return to waking consciousness. Marcus, in his light sleep, becomes dimly aware of a change in the wind, still gentle, still steady, but now carrying scents that weren't there before. The green smell of growing things, the earthy scent of soil and grass. Somewhere ahead, though still far beyond the horizon, lies land. This doesn't alarm him. Roman navigators are skilled at calculating distances, and he knows there's still a full day's sailing from the British coast. But his sailor's instincts catalog the information automatically. Tomorrow night, they'll sleep anchored in a protected bay, listening to different sounds, waves breaking on beaches, instead of the open ocean's endless rolling. The bilge workers notice the change too, though they might not consciously realize why. Their work seems slightly easier, the ship's motion just a degree more stable. This often happens as vessels approach land. The sea becomes more predictable, following patterns established by currents and tides, rather than the chaos of deep ocean weather. Brennus, taking his turn at the pumps, finds himself thinking about solid ground for the first time in weeks. Not with longing. He's grown comfortable with life at sea, but with curiosity. What will it feel like to sleep without motion, to wake up in the same position where he lay down? After weeks of constant rocking, stillness might actually seem strange. In the sleeping areas, the dreams begin to shift subtly. Instead of the pure sea dreams of deep night, men begin to dream about destinations. Lucius finds his underwater vineyard, gradually rising toward a surface he can finally see. The water grows lighter, clearer, more like the sky at dawn than the deep blue of midnight seas. But these aren't anxious dreams about arriving. They're peaceful visions of completion, the satisfaction that comes from finishing a long journey well. In his dream, Lucius swims upward, not because he needs to escape the water, but because it's time to see what waits above the surface. The morning watch continues their quiet routines, but now they include occasional glances toward the eastern horizon. Not searching for land yet, they know it's still too distant, but marking the slow passage of time, the gradual progression toward dawn. The ship's cat has settled into her favorite spot near the galley area, where she'll be first to know when the cooking fires are lit and breakfast preparation begins. But that's still hours away. For now, she curls into a perfect circle and adds her gentle purring to the night sounds that help keep everyone sleeping peacefully. Up on the steering platform, the helmsman makes tiny adjustments to their course based on wind patterns and current. These corrections are so small, they don't disturb anyone's sleep, but they ensure the ship will arrive exactly where the captain intends, at exactly the right time. Roman naval discipline included precise calculations about rest and readiness. They knew that men needed a certain amount of sleep to be effective in battle, a certain amount of time to prepare mentally for whatever challenges awaited on shore. Every aspect of the voyage was timed to ensure that when they finally reached their destination, the entire crew would be rested, alert, and ready for action. But that readiness would come naturally, gradually, without stress or anxiety. The Romans understood that the best warriors were those who felt confident and prepared, not those who were driven by fear or desperation. As the deep night reaches its final hour, the ship carries her human cargo through one last period of perfect rest. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new landscapes, new opportunities to prove their courage and skill. But tonight belongs to sleep, to dreams, to the deep restoration that happens when human beings trust each other completely. The waves continue their gentle rhythm against the hull. The sails whisper their quiet songs overhead. 200 men breathe in synchronized peace, held safely by their floating home as she carries them through darkness toward whatever dawn awaits. And in that darkness, wrapped in the warmth of shared trust and collective care, even the possibility of future battles seems distant and manageable. Whatever comes next, they'll face it rested, prepared, and united by this experience of sleeping peacefully together on the endless sea. As the night moves toward its deepest hour, the ship teaches her human cargo something profound about the nature of rest itself. On solid ground, sleep can be a private, isolated experience. One person, one bed, one room sealed off from the world. But aboard a vessel that never stops moving, surrounded by others who share the same risks and the same trust, sleep becomes something entirely different. It becomes communal, cooperative, a shared act of faith in each other, and in the greater forces that carry them all safely through the darkness. Lucius, deep in his dreams now, experiences this wisdom without being able to name it. In his sleeping mind, he understands that he's part of something larger than his individual need for rest. His peaceful sleep contributes to everyone else's peace. His trust in the ship and his companions makes it easier for them to trust in return. This is why the Romans were such successful sailors. Though they came from a culture based on land and agriculture, they learned quickly that the sea rewards cooperation in ways that solid ground doesn't always teach. On land, you can sometimes survive by being suspicious, defensive, looking out only for yourself. On water, that kind of thinking will get everyone killed. The ship demands a different kind of consciousness, one that recognizes individual welfare as inseparable from collective welfare. When Gaius adjusts his position in sleep to avoid disturbing Lucius, he's not just being considerate, he's participating in the complex dance of mutual care that keeps everyone safe and rested. The bilge workers understand this perhaps better than anyone. Their labor literally keeps the ship afloat, but they can't do their work effectively unless the rest of the crew maintains the conditions that allow them to focus on their essential task. Clean water to drink, decent food, enough rest between shifts, and the security that comes from knowing competent people are handling all the other aspects of shipboard life. In return, their steady work with the bilge pumps provides the foundation of safety that allows everyone else to sleep peacefully. Yes, it's a perfect example of how individual contribution serves collective well-being, which in turn makes individual contribution possible. Brennus, resting between his shifts at the pump, thinks about this interconnectedness in his half-sleeping state. Back in his homeland, before the Romans came, he built houses, structures designed to shelter individual families from the weather and from other people. But ships are different. Ships are built to carry many people safely through shared dangers toward shared destinations. Maybe this is what the Romans understand better than his own people did, that sometimes survival requires giving up the illusion of complete independence. Sometimes the safest, most comfortable place to be is surrounded by others who need you as much as you need them. The night watch embodies this wisdom in their quiet movements through the ship. They're not guarding against specific threats so much as maintaining the conditions that allow trust to flourish. Their competence makes it possible for everyone else to sleep without worry. Their watchfulness frees others from the need to stay alert, but it works both ways. The peaceful sleep of the off-duty crew makes it easier for the watch to focus on their responsibilities. When you know that your companions are resting well, that they'll be alert and capable when their turn comes to take responsibility, you can perform your own duties with confidence rather than anxiety. The ship's motion continues its gentle, hypnotic rhythm, but by now, that motion has become much more than just the physical rocking of a wooden vessel on water. It's become a metaphor for the way human communities can learn to move together through uncertainty, supporting each other's needs while pursuing shared goals. Roman military success wasn't based primarily on superior weapons or tactics, though they had both. It was based on this kind of deep cooperation, the ability to create small, mobile communities of people who trusted each other completely. Soldiers who could sleep peacefully together, could fight effectively together. Men who shared their rest, could share their courage. As the night deepens toward its final hours, this lesson continues to unfold in the dreams and deep sleep of 200 men, learning what it means to be truly safe. Not the brittle safety of walls and weapons, but the flexible, resilient safety that comes from being part of something larger than yourself, something that rocks you gently through the darkness and carries you safely toward whatever dawn awaits. In these last hours before the slow approach of dawn, the ship enters what experienced sailors call the deep night, that profound period when sleep reaches its most restorative depths and dreams take on an almost mystical quality. Marcus, drifting between sleep and waking, feels the ship's rhythm change in subtle ways that only years of experience can teach someone to recognize. The waves are longer now, more regular, suggesting they're moving through deeper water, where the sea's ancient patterns can express themselves without interference from underwater obstacles or coastal irregularities. This deeper water brings deeper sleep. The ship's motion becomes even more gentle and predictable, like being rocked in the arms of something infinitely patient and caring. The sounds of wind and wave blend into a natural symphony that seems designed specifically to promote the kind of rest that heals both body and spirit. In his sleeping space, Lucius has reached that perfect state of sleep that every traveler hopes for, so deep that he's completely unaware of his surroundings, yet so peaceful that his body remains relaxed and comfortable despite the unfamiliar environment. His breathing has synchronized not just with Gaius beside him, but with the ship's own rhythm as she rises and falls with the long ocean swells. His dreams have evolved throughout the night, from the anxious images of early sleep to the profound visions that come only in these deepest hours. Now he dreams that he's flying slowly over a vast landscape that combines elements from his home in Italy with glimpses of the unknown British shores that await them. But he's not flying alone. The entire ship is with him, all 200 souls soaring together through starlight toward a destination that feels both mysterious and welcoming. The bilge workers, too, have found their own version of this deep rest. During their break periods, they sleep with the profound exhaustion that comes from essential work well done. Their dreams are often about water, not the threatening water that their work keeps at bay, but healing water, life-giving water, the kind of clear streams and peaceful rivers they remember from their various homelands. Brennus dreams about building again, but now his constructions are made of flowing water rather than solid wood. He shapes streams and rivers into dwelling places that move and change, but never collapse, homes that can carry their inhabitants anywhere they need to go. When he wakes, he'll remember this dream and wonder if it's trying to tell him something about his future after his term of service ends. Even the ship's cat, experiences this deep night peace. She sleeps curled in her favorite spot near the galley, but her dreams are filled with the sounds and scents of all the ports she's visited, all the different lands she's seen from the safety of her floating home. In her cat dreams, every harbor is welcoming. Every shore offers interesting new smells and sounds to explore. The morning watch maintains their vigilance, but they too feel the profound peace of these deep hours. Their movements become even more quiet and careful, as if they understand they're guarding something sacred, not just the physical safety of sleeping men, but the rare and precious experience of complete rest in the middle of a dangerous world. Up on deck, the lookout scans the horizon with eyes that have grown perfectly adapted to darkness. He sees nothing but stars and water, which is exactly what he expects to see. His job isn't to search for trouble, but to maintain the kind of alert calm that allows everyone else to surrender completely to sleep. The helmsman, steering by starlight and instinct, feels the ship's contentment in the way she responds to his guidance. A happy ship, Romans believed, sailed more smoothly and arrived more safely at her destination. Tonight, their vessel seems deeply content with her cargo of peacefully sleeping men. As these final deep hours pass, something beautiful happens to the collective consciousness of the ship's human cargo. Individual concerns fade away. Personal worries dissolve. Even the distinction between Romans and non-Romans, free men and slaves, experienced sailors and nervous newcomers, becomes less important than the shared experience of being safely held by the dark water and the caring night. This is the gift of deep night aboard a Roman warship, the discovery that safety doesn't come from walls or weapons, but from the willingness to trust completely in forces larger than individual strength or cleverness. The sea, the ship, the collective wisdom of experienced sailors, and the simple but profound human capacity to care for each other during times of vulnerability. Soon enough, the eastern sky will begin to lighten. The day will bring new challenges, new landscapes, new opportunities to prove courage and skill. But for now, in these perfect hours of darkness and rest, 200 souls experience the deepest peace that mortal life can offer. The peace of being completely, safely, lovingly held, while consciousness dissolves into the healing darkness of regenerative sleep. Just before the deepest part of the night gives way to the first subtle hints of approaching dawn, something shifts in the ship's atmosphere. Not awakening, that's still hours away, but a gentle change in the quality of rest, like the difference between midnight sleep and the softer, dreamier sleep of early morning hours. The wind carries new information now, still gentle, still steady, but touched with scents that speak of lands somewhere beyond the curved horizon. The green smell of forests, the brown smell of earth, the complex mixture of growing things that tells experienced nostrils they're approaching shores where people have lived and worked and planted crops for generations. Marcus, in his sailor's sleep, catalogs these changes without fully waking. His body remains relaxed, his breathing deep and regular, but some part of his mind notes the subtle alterations in wind and weather. Tomorrow they'll wake to the sight of the British coast. Tomorrow night, they'll sleep in a different kind of peace, anchored in a protected bay instead of sailing through open ocean. But that's tomorrow. Tonight still belongs to the deep water, the open sea, the kind of rest that's only possible when you're completely surrounded by something vast and caring that rocks you gently through the darkness. The ship's motion has grown even more soothing as they've moved into deeper waters. The waves here are longer, more regular, shaped by forces that operate on a scale larger than individual storms or local weather patterns. These are the ocean's own natural rhythms, and they create the kind of motion that lulls human beings into the deepest possible sleep. In his comfortable nest between Gaius and their other tentmates, Lucius experiences sleep so profound that his entire being seems to dissolve into pure rest. His dreams have moved beyond specific images or stories into something more like music, patterns of light and sensation that flow through his sleeping mind like gentle water through sunlit streams. This is the sleep that Roman military physicians knew was essential for fighting men. Not just rest for tired muscles, but restoration for minds that would soon need to make split-second decisions in combat. The kind of deep, healing sleep that could only happen when soldiers felt completely safe and supported by their companions. The bilge workers, taking their rest between shifts, sleep with the special contentment of people whose essential work is going well. The ship remains dry and sound. Their careful labor through the night has contributed to everyone's safety and comfort. They can rest, knowing they've earned their place in this floating community through skill and dedication. Brennus, dreaming his dreams of ships built from light and water, experiences something like a vision of the future. Not prophecy exactly, but the kind of insight that sometimes comes in the deep hours when normal consciousness releases its grip on immediate concerns. He sees himself building again, creating structures that serve not conquest but connection, vessels that carry not weapons but wisdom between distant shores. The morning watch continues their quiet circuits through the ship, but now their movements take on an almost ceremonial quality. They're not just maintaining security, they're serving as guardians of this sacred space, where 200 souls experience the gift of perfect rest. The ship's cat has found her way to a new sleeping spot, one that will catch the first warm rays of sunlight when dawn eventually comes. But for now, she curls into perfect feline contentment, adding her gentle purring to the night sounds that help maintain the atmosphere of peace. Up on the steering platform, the helmsman feels the ship's eagerness for the approaching day, but it's a calm eagerness, like the anticipation of someone who knows that good things await, but feels no need to rush toward them. The vessel seems content to take her time, to savor these final hours of carrying sleeping souls through protective darkness. As the night moves toward its turning point, still hours before dawn, but past the deepest part of darkness, everyone aboard experiences rest in its most healing form. The kind of sleep that doesn't just restore energy, but renews faith in the possibility of safety, comfort, and human cooperation, even in the most challenging circumstances. Soon enough, the sky will begin its slow brightening, but for now, the ship sails on through perfect darkness, carrying her precious cargo of dreaming souls toward whatever adventures await them in the daylight hours to come. In the hour that Romans called the seventh of the night, what we might call 4 o'clock in the morning, something almost imperceptible begins to happen aboard the warship. The deepest part of sleep starts its slow, gentle transition toward the lighter rest that will eventually gradually lead to waking. But this isn't the jarring transition of modern alarms or sudden awakenings. This is the natural progression that happens when human beings sleep in harmony with larger rhythms, the movement of wind and wave, the turning of stars, the ancient cycles that connect all living things to the pulse of the world itself. The first sign is a subtle change in breathing patterns. Not awakening, but a shift from the profound depths of midnight sleep toward the gentler, more dream-filled rest of early morning hours. Across the ship, 200 pairs of lungs begin to breathe just slightly faster, just a little less deeply. Marcus feels this change in his sailor's sleep and allows himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. They've successfully navigated another night at sea. The ship is sound, the crew is rested, and sometime in the coming day they'll sight the shores of Britain. All the small decisions, careful routines, and practiced competencies of experienced seamanship have combined to deliver everyone safely through the hours of darkness. The bilge workers begin to anticipate the changing of shifts, though they're not yet fully conscious of this anticipation. Bodies that have learned the rhythms of shipboard life prepare themselves for the gradual return to full awareness. But there's no urgency, no stress, just the natural progression from rest to readiness that happens when people trust completely in the systems that keep them safe. Brennus, still sleeping, but no longer in the deepest phases of rest, continues his dreams about building with light and water. But now his dream constructions begin to include elements that look like harbors, like places where ships can safely anchor and their crews can step onto solid ground. His sleeping mind is beginning to prepare for the transition from sea to land that waits somewhere in the approaching day. In the sleeping areas, the canvas walls flutter slightly more actively in what might be a freshening breeze. Not enough to disturb anyone's sleep, but enough to suggest that weather patterns are shifting in the subtle ways that often accompany the approach of dawn. Still hours away, Lucius, deep in his peaceful sleep, begins to dream about waking up. But even in his dream, the awakening is gentle and gradual. He dreams that he's rising slowly through layers of warm water toward a surface that glows with soft, welcoming light. There's no urgency in his dream ascent, no panic about needing to breathe, just the natural buoyancy that carries him gently upward toward whatever waits above. The ship herself seems to participate in this gentle turning toward morning. Her motion remains soothing and regular, but there's a subtle change in the way she meets the waves, a suggestion that she too is beginning to think about the day ahead, about the harbor where she'll eventually drop anchor and rest from her labors. The night watch continues their quiet routines, but now they occasionally glance toward the eastern horizon, not searching for the first signs of dawn. They know that's still hours away, but acknowledging that the night has turned its corner and begun the slow journey toward day. This is one of the most beautiful aspects of sleep aboard a Roman warship, how naturally and gradually the transition happens from deep rest toward gentle wakefulness. No sudden shocks, no harsh demands for immediate alertness, just the kind of slow, organic awakening that leaves people feeling truly refreshed and ready for whatever challenges the day might bring. The stars continue their ancient wheel overhead, but even they seem to participate in this gentle turning toward morning. Their light appears softer somehow, less brilliant against the deep black of midnight, more like distant candles welcoming travelers home. And in this perfect moment of transition, no longer the deep night, not yet the approach of dawn, 200 souls rest in the kind of peace that connects them to every human being who has ever found safety and comfort in the care of others during the dark hours when we are all most vulnerable. The approach of morning aboard a Roman warship is nothing like the harsh awakening of military camps on land. There are no trumpet calls, no shouted commands, no sudden demands for immediate action. Instead, consciousness returns as gently as it departed, in harmony with the natural rhythms that have governed the night. The first people to wake are the experienced sailors, whose internal clocks have been set by years of sea voyages. Marcus opens his eyes gradually, taking a moment to feel the ship's motion and listen to her sounds. Everything tells him the night has passed peacefully. The hull is sound, the wind is steady, the crew is rested. He rises quietly from his sleeping spot, without disturbing his companions. His movements are practiced and efficient, feet finding the deck without looking, hands locating his gear in complete darkness, body automatically adjusting to the ship's gentle rolling motion. Up on deck, he finds the morning watch alert, but relaxed, their vigilance focused and calm, rather than anxious. The lookout reports nothing unusual on the horizon, just stars and water, exactly as expected. The helmsman confirms their course remains true. The breeze has freshened slightly, but remains favorable for their progress toward Britain. Below deck, other experienced sailors begin to stir, but they take their time about it. There's no rush, no pressure to leap immediately into action. The ship sails herself through these quiet pre-dawn hours, and the crew can wake naturally, allowing their bodies and minds to make the gradual transition from sleep to alertness. Gaius opens his eyes and lies still for a moment, grateful for another night of safe passage. Beside him, Lucius continues to sleep deeply, his face peaceful and relaxed. The young soldier has finally learned to trust the ship's motion, and his sleep now has the profound quality that comes only when someone feels completely secure. The bilge workers change shifts with quiet efficiency, the night crew reporting to their replacements in whispered conversations that don't carry beyond their work area. The pumps continue their steady rhythm, the ship remains dry and sound, and the essential work of staying afloat continues without interruption. Brennus, taking his turn at the pumps, finds himself thinking about the dream he had during his rest period. ships built of light and water, harbors that welcome travelers from every land, construction that serves connection rather than conquest. The images remain vivid in his mind, and he wonders if they're trying to tell him something about the life that waits for him after his term of service ends. In the galley area, the ship's cook begins his quiet preparations for the morning meal. Not cooking yet. That will wait until more of the crew is awake, but organizing supplies, checking water stores, making ready for the work that will feed 200 men when they're ready to eat. The ship's cat stretches and begins her morning rounds, checking each sleeping area with the same maternal care she shows during the night hours. Some of the men stir slightly as she passes, but most remain deep in the gentle sleep of early morning, when dreams are most vivid and rest is most restorative. As the pre-dawn hours progress, consciousness spreads gradually through the ship, like gentle light filling a room at sunrise. No sudden transitions, no jarring awakenings, just the natural progression from sleep to alertness that happens when people trust completely in their environment and their companions. The first quiet conversations begin in whispered voices that don't carry beyond immediate neighbors. Men share fragments of dreams, comment on the quality of their rest, express gratitude for another safe night at sea. These early morning exchanges help create the sense of community and shared experience that makes long voyages bearable. Lucius begins to stir, his consciousness rising slowly through the layers of sleep, like a swimmer surfacing from great depths. His first awareness is of comfort, the softness of his wool mattress, the warmth of his blanket, the security of familiar voices around him. Only gradually does he remember where he is and why. But the knowledge brings no anxiety, only anticipation for whatever the day might bring. The ship continues her steady progress through the pre-dawn darkness, carrying her cargo of gradually awakening souls toward whatever adventures await them. But the awakening itself is an adventure, the daily miracle of consciousness returning to bodies that have spent the night in healing rest, minds that have been restored by dreams and deep sleep. Soon enough, the eastern sky will begin to show the first faint hints of approaching dawn. But for now, in these perfect moments of gentle awakening, everyone aboard experiences the gift of natural transition from the peace of night to the possibilities of day. Though true dawn is still an hour away, something in the quality of darkness begins to suggest that morning will eventually come. Not visible yet, not even a hint of light on the horizon, but a subtle change in the air itself, a freshening, a sense of anticipation, like the world holding its breath before the daily miracle of sunrise. The men who are now awake don't rush to wake their sleeping companions. Roman military discipline includes understanding that rest is as important as action, that well-rested soldiers are more effective than exhausted ones. Those who need more sleep are allowed to take it, while those who wake naturally begin the quiet routines of morning preparation. Marcus makes his way carefully through the sleeping areas, checking on the men under his unofficial care. His weathered hands briefly touch foreheads, feeling for fever. His experienced eyes note breathing patterns, looking for signs of illness or distress. But tonight, everyone rests peacefully. The sea air, the gentle motion, and the security of good companionship have combined to provide exactly the kind of restorative sleep that fighting men need. In the galley, the cook lights a small, carefully shielded lamp and begins more active preparations for breakfast. The smell of bread being prepared drifts through the ship, not strong enough to wake anyone, but present enough to add to the growing sense that morning is approaching. Soon there will be warm food, hot wine mixed with water, the simple pleasures that make life at sea not just bearable, but genuinely comfortable. The bilge workers continue their essential labor, but now their conversations include quiet speculation about what they might see when they reach the British coast. Some have heard stories about the mysterious island from other travelers. Others wonder if they'll recognize anything familiar in a landscape so different from their homelands. Brennus finds himself hoping that his skills as a shipbuilder might be useful when they establish whatever settlement or military post awaits them on shore. Roman engineers are always interested in local knowledge, local materials, local techniques that might improve their construction methods. Maybe there will be opportunities for a man who understands both Roman efficiency and native craftsmanship. Lucius, still drifting in the light sleep of early morning, dreams that he's standing on a hill overlooking a harbor where ships from every nation come and go in peaceful commerce. In his dream, the Roman warship has been transformed into a merchant vessel carrying not weapons but gifts. Wine from his family's vineyard, olive oil from Italian groves, pottery made by craftsmen who take pride in their work. The dream doesn't make him wish they weren't sailing to Britain as part of a military expedition, but it gives him a vision of what might be possible someday. A world where Roman ships carry trade and learning rather than conquest, where different peoples meet as partners rather than enemies. As the pre-dawn hours continue their slow progression, the ship maintains her steady course through calm seas. The wind remains favorable, the weather clear, the passage smooth. By all signs, they'll reach the British coast sometime during the coming day, ready to begin whatever work awaits them there. But that future remains distant and dreamlike. The present moment belongs to this perfect balance between night and morning, sleep and waking, rest and readiness. 200 men, experiencing the gift of gradual awakening after a night of healing sleep, carried safely through darkness by their floating home. The stars overhead continue their ancient dance, but now they seem less like distant lights and more like old friends keeping watch until the sun takes over their duties. The sea maintains her gentle rhythm, rocking the ship and her human cargo with the patience of something that has carried countless souls safely through countless nights. Soon enough, the eastern horizon will begin to glow with the first hints of approaching dawn. The day will bring new challenges, new landscapes, new opportunities to prove courage and skill. But the night has given everyone exactly what they needed: rest, restoration, and the deep peace that comes from sleeping safely in the care of others. Whatever tomorrow brings, they'll face it rested and ready, united by this shared experience of finding comfort and security in the most unlikely place. A wooden ship sailing through darkness toward an unknown shore. In these quiet hours before dawn, truly begins its approach. Marcus finds himself thinking about this ship's long history. His weathered hand runs along the smooth oak rail, feeling the groove worn by countless other hands, Roman hands, like his own, but belonging to men whose names are now forgotten, whose stories live on only in the wood and rope that surrounds him. This vessel has sailed Mediterranean waters for 12 years now. 12 years of carrying Roman souls across the wine-dark sea, through calm nights like this one, and through storms that tested every joint, every nail, every carefully tied knot. She survived weather that sank lesser ships, carried wounded soldiers home from battles whose names are already fading from official records, delivered supplies to distant outposts where Roman eagles still flew over foreign soil. Marcus remembers the ship's first voyage, when he was younger and the vessel was new. The wood still smelled of the forests where it grew, and the sails were so white they seemed to glow in sunlight. Everything was sharp-edged then, untested. The ship moved through the water with the nervous energy of youth, eager but uncertain. Now she moves differently. The wood has learned to flex, just enough but never too much. The sails have stretched into perfect curves that catch wind more efficiently than any sailmaker's original design. The hull has developed that subtle wisdom that comes only from successfully navigating thousands of different conditions, learning how to ride each type of wave, how to respond to every variety of wind. In calm weather like tonight, Marcus sometimes feels he can hear the echoes of all those previous voyages, the prayers of nervous recruits on their first sea journey, the victory songs of veterans heading home after successful campaigns, the quiet conversations of men who trusted this ship with their lives and were rewarded with safe passage. The deck beneath his feet has absorbed the footsteps of perhaps 2,000 different soldiers over the years. Each man left something behind: the oil from his skin on the rail he gripped during rough weather, the slight wear pattern of his particular way of walking, the invisible but permanent impression of his presence during those vulnerable night hours when sleep requires complete trust. Some ships, Marcus believes, develop personalities over time, not consciousness in any human sense, but something deeper, an accumulation of all the care, skill, and hope that people have invested in them. This vessel carries not just her current cargo of sleeping men, but the spiritual weight of every soul who ever found safety and comfort within her protective embrace. He thinks about the ship's previous captains, men whose leadership kept everyone safe through dangers that never made it into official reports, storms weathered through seamanship rather than luck, equipment failures solved through ingenuity and cooperation, the thousand small crises that could have become disasters if not handled with skill and calm judgment. The bilge workers below have their own stories woven into the ship's memory, men from dozens of different homelands who learned to work together, not because they shared language or customs, but because the ship demanded cooperation from everyone who wanted to stay afloat. Some earned their freedom through years of faithful service. Others discovered talents they never knew they possessed. A few found something like brotherhood with their Roman overseers. Brennus, working his shift at the pumps, has become part of this history. His improvements to the vessel's construction, his insights about reading weather and current, his quiet leadership among the other workers, all of it gets absorbed into the ship's growing wisdom. Years from now, when he's earned his citizenship, and this voyage is just a memory, his contributions will still be here, built into the very structure that keeps future crews safe. The ship remembers storms, too. That terrible 3-day blow off the coast of Sicily, when waves crashed over the deck, and everyone thought they might not see another sunrise. But she rode it out, flexing and yielding and somehow staying whole, while the wind tried to tear her apart. The memory of that survival is in her timbers now, a confidence that helps her crew sleep peacefully, even when weather threatens. She remembers the quiet victories as well, battles won not through violence, but through the mere presence of Roman naval power in disputed waters. Conflicts avoided because potential enemies looked at this ship and her sister vessels and decided that negotiation might be wiser than war. Peace kept not through weakness, but through the visible strength of a well-maintained fleet, carrying disciplined, well-rested soldiers. As Marcus settles back into his sleeping space, he feels grateful to be part of this floating history. Every night of safe passage adds another page to the ship's invisible chronicle. Every group of men who learned to sleep peacefully together on her deck becomes part of her legacy of providing shelter and security in the vast loneliness of the open sea. Tomorrow they'll reach British waters, and new stories will begin. But tonight belongs to the accumulated wisdom of all those who came before, all who trusted their lives to this vessel's care, and were carried safely through the darkness toward whatever dawn awaited them. In the deepest part of the pre-dawn hours, when consciousness drifts like smoke between waking and dreaming, memories surface with the gentleness of bubbles rising through still water. Each man aboard the ship finds himself remembering not the sights of home, those can sometimes bring painful longing, but the sounds, those gentle, familiar noises that once meant safety, comfort, belonging. Lucius, floating in the light sleep of early morning, drifts into memories of dawn on his family's vineyard, the soft rustle of grape leaves stirring in the first breeze of day, roosters calling from distant farms, their voices carrying across hills, still purple with morning shadows, the gentle lowing of cattle being led to pasture, their bells creating a melody that meant the world was waking up safely once again. Most precious of all, his mother's voice humming while she prepared breakfast. No particular song, just the wordless music that mothers make when they're content, when their family is gathered safely under their roof, when the day ahead holds no greater worry than whether the bread will rise properly or the weather will favor the growing vines. These sounds blend with the ship's lullaby now, creating something new but familiar, as if home and sea were always meant to sing together. The splash of waves becomes the sound of water flowing in the irrigation channels. His father dug between the vineyard rows. The creaking of the ship's timbers echoes the groan of grape presses during harvest time. Even the distant calls of the night watch seem to harmonize with the memory of shepherds calling to their flocks on distant hillsides. Gaius, lying peacefully beside him, remembers different sounds from his childhood in the mountains of northern Italy. The whisper of wind through pine forests, a sound so constant in his youth that he noticed it only when it stopped. The crack and rumble of avalanches on distant peaks, dangerous but magnificent, reminding everyone in the valley that they lived in the presence of forces far greater than human ambition. Winter sounds, especially the sharp crack of lake ice on cold mornings, the soft whisper of snow falling on snow, sometimes so quiet you had to hold your breath to hear it, sometimes building to the roar of blizzards that could bury entire villages for days at a time. But even the dangerous weather had its comforting aspects. The way families gathered closer around fires, the way neighbors checked on each other more frequently, the way harsh conditions brought out the best in mountain people who understood that survival depended on caring for the community. In his half-sleep, Gaius realizes that life aboard this ship recreates many of those same sound patterns. The constant background whisper of wind and wave, like wind through forests. The way voices carry differently in the confined space, creating intimacy, even among strangers. The rhythmic sounds of essential work. The bilge pumps, like distant wood cutting. The adjustment of sails, like the creak of pulleys drawing water from deep wells. Brennus, taking his rest between shifts in the bilge, dreams of sounds from his Gallic homeland. The complex music of rivers flowing over rocky beds, each stone creating its own note in a symphony that changed with every season. Spring's high, rushing melodies when snowmelt swelled the streams. Summer's gentle murmur when water ran clear and low. Autumn's deeper tones when fallen leaves created natural dams and eddies. Forest sounds, too. The particular way wind moved through oak groves compared to beech forests, compared to stands of ash and elm. Birds that sang differently in Gaul than they did in other lands. Larks with more complex songs, owls with deeper calls, crows that seemed to speak in a dialect all their own. But most of all, the sounds of his craft, the rhythm of hammers shaping wood, each type of timber producing its own tone when struck, the whisper of planes shaving curls from oak planks, the satisfaction of joints fitting perfectly together with barely a sound, the way a well-built structure would sigh gently as it settled into its final shape, like a tired worker relaxing at the end of a good day. Working on this Roman ship has taught him that good craftsmanship sounds the same in any language. The ship's satisfied creaking, as she flexes with the waves, tells him that Roman builders understand wood and water and wind just as deeply as his own people did. Different techniques perhaps, but the same fundamental respect for materials and conditions, and the eternal challenge of making things that will keep people safe. Even some of the enslaved workers from more distant lands contribute to this quiet symphony of remembered sounds. A man from Egypt hums melodies that echo the rhythm of oars on the Nile. A captured sailor from Carthage taps out rhythms on wooden surfaces that match the beat of drums from his homeland's religious festivals. The ship becomes a vessel for carrying not just bodies, but sounds, fragments of all the places these men have known, all the homes they've left behind, all the familiar noises that once defined the boundaries of their worlds. Tonight, floating together on the dark Mediterranean, they create something new from these memories. Not quite Roman, not quite foreign, but something uniquely their own, the sound of men learning to find home in each other's company. As the pre-dawn hours deepen, these remembered sounds blend more and more seamlessly with the ship's gentle music. Home and voyage become one song, past and present harmonize, and sleep deepens into the kind of rest that heals not just tired bodies, but homesick hearts. Let yourself drift even deeper now into this space between deep night and the first whisper of approaching dawn. You're floating in that perfect moment, when time seems to pause, when the darkness holds you with infinite gentleness, when every breath carries you further from the concerns of waking life. Feel how completely supported you are in this ancient moment. 200 souls breathing in a peaceful rhythm around you. The ship herself breathing with the rise and fall of long ocean swells. Your own breath, finding the same gentle tempo, in and out, like being held in the arms of something vast and eternally patient. The boundary between your individual consciousness and the greater peace around you has grown soft, permeable. You might be Lucius dreaming of his vineyard, or Marcus drawing on years of maritime wisdom, or Brennus building bridges between different worlds with his skilled hands, or you might be something larger than any individual story, part of the ship's own dreaming consciousness. As she carries her precious cargo through the protective darkness, listen to the symphony of safety around you, the whisper of canvas in the night breeze, like pages of an ancient book, turning slowly, telling stories of all the souls who've ever found shelter from life's storms, the gentle splash of water against the wooden hull, like applause from the sea herself, celebrating another night of successful passage through her vast domain. The scent of lavender still drifts through the night air, mixing with salt and sun-warmed wood, and the clean smell of wind that's traveled across 1,000 miles of open water. Each breath draws you deeper into this timeless place, this floating sanctuary, where worry dissolves and trust becomes as natural as breathing. Feel the gentle rocking motion, working its ancient magic on your tired muscles, releasing tension you didn't even know you were carrying. Your shoulders sink deeper into comfort. Your hands relax completely. Your face grows soft as a child's in peaceful sleep. The ship does all the work now, carrying you, protecting you, keeping you safe, while you surrender to the healing power of deep rest. This is how human beings have always found comfort, in the most unlikely places. How they've learned to create safety through cooperation and care. How they've discovered that home isn't a place but a feeling. The feeling of being held by something larger than fear, something wiser than worry, something more enduring than any individual life. The Roman stars wheel overhead, the same constellations that guided ancient navigators safely home, that shine tonight on your modern world, connecting all times, all journeys, all souls who've ever needed to find their way through darkness toward light, toward hope, toward whatever dawn awaits them. You're part of that eternal story now, part of the great human adventure of learning to trust, to rest, to let yourself be carried by forces and people and vessels that know better than your anxious mind how to navigate through uncertainty toward safety. The night is still deep around you, but somewhere in the quality of darkness, you can sense that morning will eventually come, not rushing, not demanding, just waiting patiently for the natural time of awakening, like everything good in life, arriving in its own season, in its own gentle way. For now, just float, just breathe, just let the ancient rhythms carry you deeper into the kind of rest that restores not just your body, but your faith in the possibility of safety, in the reality of care, in the eternal human capacity to look after each other during the vulnerable hours. When we all need shepherding through the darkness, the ship sails on, carrying you safely, steadily, lovingly toward whatever tomorrow holds. But tomorrow can wait. Tonight belongs to this perfect peace, this timeless trust, this gentle rocking that feels like being held in the very arms of time itself. In these quiet hours before the slow approach of dawn, thoughts turn naturally to the things that connect these floating souls to the solid world they've left behind. This Roman warship carries more than soldiers and sailors. She bears the accumulated treasures of 200 men who've learned to compress their entire lives into small, precious bundles that can travel anywhere the empire's business might take them. Lucius opens his personal chest in the darkness, not to remove anything, but simply to reassure himself that his connections to home remain safe and secure. His fingers trace the familiar shapes of his most precious possessions, objects that weigh almost nothing but carry the entire weight of his identity, his memories, his hopes for the future. The small clay lamp, shaped like a dolphin, a gift from his sister on the day he left for military service. She'd saved copper coins for months to buy it from a traveling merchant, choosing the dolphin design because, she said, it would help him find his way safely across any waters. The lamp has never been lit. It's too precious to risk damaging. But somehow, its presence makes any space feel more like home. His wooden stylus and wax tablets rest beside the lamp, tools for the letters he writes but rarely sends. Instead, the act of writing itself provides comfort, forming careful Latin letters, while the ship rocks gently, recording his thoughts about this strange new life, describing the men he's met and the things he's learned. Someday, when he returns to the vineyard, these tablets will help him remember not just the facts of his service, but the feelings, the gradual transformation from frightened farm boy to something approaching a real soldier. Most precious of all, wrapped in a piece of silk his mother saved from her own wedding dress, lies a small bag of seeds from the family vineyard. Not to plant, he understands the practical impossibility of that, but simply to hold when homesickness grows too heavy to bear alone. The seeds still carry the scent of Italian soil, the essence of the land where his roots run deeper than any vine. Around the sleeping area, other men treasure their own carefully chosen links to the lives they've temporarily set aside. Gaius keeps a small piece of granite chipped from the mountain where he was born, heavy and impractical, but somehow essential. When he holds it in his hand, he can almost feel the solid permanence of those northern peaks, the reassuring weight of stone that has stood unchanged since the world was young. Marcus's chest contains the tools of his trade, navigation instruments, polished smooth by years of use, charts marked with notes in his careful handwriting, a compass that has guided him safely through weather that would terrify landlubbers. But mixed among these practical items are softer treasures. A lock of hair from a woman in Ravenna who promised to wait for his return, a small wooden horse carved by his father, letters from home that he reads so often the ink has begun to fade. Down in the bilge area, even the enslaved workers maintain their own collections of precious objects. Brennus has managed to keep a set of woodworking tools, not the full kit he owned in his homeland, but enough to practice his craft and remember who he was before Roman conquest changed his circumstances. Working on the ship's maintenance, he's discovered that skilled hands speak a universal language. Roman wood responds to Gallic techniques. Mediterranean oak yields to tools designed for northern forests. His small personal space contains other treasures. A chunk of amber, with an insect preserved inside, found on a beach in his homeland during his last free summer. A collection of different woods, each piece no larger than his thumb, but representing every type of tree that grew in the forests of his youth. When he closes his eyes and runs his fingers over these samples, he can remember not just how each wood looked, but how it felt to work with, what tools it demanded, what kind of structures it wanted to become. Some of the other workers carry even smaller treasures, a particular stone, a dried flower, a piece of cloth in the colors of their tribal clothing. Objects that would mean nothing to strangers, but contain entire worlds of memory and identity for the men who guard them so carefully. The ship herself seems to understand the importance of these personal cargoes. Her gentle motion never jostles the sleeping areas, roughly enough to spill or damage the carefully arranged contents of the storage chests. The Romans, who designed her, knew that men fight better when they can maintain connections to their deeper selves, their homes, their reasons for wanting to survive whatever battles lie ahead. As the pre-dawn hours continue their slow progression, these accumulated treasures create an invisible map of the Mediterranean world. Italian earth, Gallic wood, Egyptian textiles, Germanic metals, all the diverse materials and memories that make up the empire, gathered together in the hull of a single ship, sailing toward unknown shores. But more than that, they represent something universal about human nature, the need to carry pieces of home wherever we go, to maintain connections that transcend physical distance, to remember that no matter how far we travel or how much we change, some essential part of us remains rooted in the places and people that first taught us what it means to belong somewhere safe. 200 souls rest safely on the gentle waves, carried by their wooden home toward whatever adventures await them. Some sleep deeply still, lost in dreams of home and hope. Others have begun the gradual awakening that happens naturally when people trust completely in their surroundings and companions. The ship herself continues her steady progress through calm waters, her experienced crew maintaining the routines that keep everyone safe and comfortable. The bilge pumps beat their regular rhythm, the sails whisper their quiet songs, the hull creaks its ancient lullaby of wood and rope and canvas working together in perfect harmony. You've discovered tonight what those Roman sailors learned centuries ago, that safety doesn't come from walls or weapons, but from the willingness to trust in something larger than individual strength. The sea, the ship, the collective wisdom of experienced travelers, and the simple but profound human capacity to care for each other during times of vulnerability. In the gentle rocking motion, the soft sounds of wind and wave, the warm presence of sleeping companions, they found the secret of rest that heals not just tired bodies, but weary spirits. They learned that home can be anywhere people look out for each other with skill and kindness. The lessons of this ancient night remain true today. Whether we're crossing unknown seas or navigating the challenges of modern life, we find our deepest peace when we remember that we're not alone, that others have traveled these paths before us, and that there's profound comfort in surrendering to rhythms larger than our individual concerns. The Roman warship sails on through protective darkness, carrying her precious cargo of dreaming souls toward whatever dawn awaits. But the peace they've found in these quiet hours, the rest, the trust, the gentle community of shared safety, travels with them wherever they go. And so it can travel with you as you drift now into your own healing sleep, held safely by the same ancient rhythms that have comforted travelers for thousands of years. Sleep well, history dreams alongside you.